走り出せ走り出せ空高く鳩と差し
Hi guys, it's Wasabifold here, and I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. Basically, this will be my formal presentation for my last two Nakama theory that I alluded to in my How to Pick the Next Nakama discussion. I'd also like to say thanks to everyone for all the support. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. If this is the first video you're seeing from me, check out the rest of the videos on my channel, and let's just get into it. Now, by the title, you can already tell I believe there's only going to be two more Nakama. All those reasons are presented in the How to Pick the Next Nakama discussion video, so I won't get into those here. What I will say is, what I will be dealing with in this theory is what those two positions will be, and also what powers they might have, and when they might be introduced into the story. So firstly, the two positions are going to be a helmsman and a coating mechanic. This was inspired mainly by Beck's Raftel theory, where he talks about under reverse mounting possibly being the location for Raftel. I think this is the best Raftel theory, and I really took inspiration from that to make this theory, and I tried to find two roles that would assist the crew in that final journey to Raftel under the assumption that it is under reverse mounting. And the first one that came to mind was a helmsman. Now, in Blackbeard's crew, we were introduced to the first and only named helmsman in the entire series in Jesus Burgess. And I think it's significant that Blackbeard, a pirate of 20 years experience in his crew, got a helmsman within the first 5. That really shows that a helmsman is important in the New World. Maybe it wasn't as important in Paradise, but it seems like it would be more important when you're getting near Raftel, because Raftel is the island that only one crew in history has ever reached. And you want the best of every position there to lead you on that path to Raftel. It just makes the most sense to have the best in every position. So that's why I believe that a helmsman is a very important position to be filled in the crew. And the next position is the coating mechanic, because if Raftel is under reverse mountain, it makes sense that you would have a coating mechanic in the crew, and a coating mechanic would be able to coat the ship at a moment's notice so that we could submerge and get to underwater territory. Now, this does have more uses than just getting to Raftel. If Raftel is under the reverse mountain, it does give us a tactical advantage. We'd be able to do like Whitebeard and coat our ship and just travel underwater. We could sneak up on the Marines just like Whitebeard did. So a coating mechanic and helmsman, I think those are the two main positions that would be needed to reach Raftel at this point in the series. I can't see anything else that would be needed. So again, if you watch my How to Choose the Next Nakama discussion, I mentioned that there's a pattern that revealed itself in the crew such that their roles tend to influence their fighting styles quite a bit, and Oda has always gone out of his way to make sure that if they don't have it when they join, they develop it later down as they travel with the crew. But everyone now currently has a fighting style that matches their role, with a few exceptions, those being Robin, whose role is not pirate crew related, and Luffy, who is the captain and main protagonist, but everyone else matches. So I believe this pattern actually does matter as far as lesser roles are concerned in the crew. And for a helmsman, then the role would have to match his skill set, and the helmsman would be an expert at reading ocean currents, at piloting a ship, at knowing how to move a vessel through the ocean water with the least path of resistance wherever possible. That would be ideal. So I believe that a helmsman will end up being a fisherman. The same water that he has to guide the ship through, he uses to fight. I think that creates a great thematic line there. Who could be better a helmsman than someone who spent his entire life in the ocean? I do believe that the next fisherman should have a deep connection to being a slave to match the aesthetic of Fisherman Island and what the plight of his people has always been about. I believe that a next helmsman will be the fisherman Nakama. Now, when he will join, I'll get into later in this video. Now, the next one I want to talk about is the coating mechanic, and this is the most extensive one to talk about because this role has a lot of issues just straight from the get-go that you can look at. For a coating mechanic, there's the problem of the resin that's needed to coat a ship is supposed to be exclusive to Sabadi Archipelago. You're only supposed to be able to coat ships there because of the special environment and the air created by the mangroves. And there's all these restrictions on coating as far as it is related on Paradise, and we've not been given any alternative to it in the new world, even though people do expect that there should be some alternative. So, you're wondering how exactly would coding a ship even work? And I believe is things that are going to be overcome by a devil fruit. If the coding mechanic has a devil fruit that can create a substance that is ideal for coding, but is also doesn't have those same restrictions, then we instantly get a coder who's unique, a coder who can code whenever we need it and whenever we may want to use it, and a coder who would be using this devil fruit to fight. So immediately you have a theme there that matches, that parallels, just like the fisherman matching the helmsman position. A coder with a devil fruit that could fill all these requirements would match this crew. So now we have to look at devil fruits in the crew, and if there's any theories relating to this, any patterns that have emerged. And the one major one is the Odachi Code theory, as I like to call it, which is not really called that, but it deals with an SBS post that was proposed to Oda by a Japanese fan. And basically, she proposed the idea that Oda was using Goro Owase to choose the name of the devil fruit in the crew. For those who don't know, Goro Owase is a Japanese game where certain phrases or Japanese syllables are used to represent certain numbers, and people take those syllables and construct little phrases and memory phrases to help them remember dates and numbers that can be decoded, and manga artists use it to make very clever puns in their own series. For instance, Ichigo is a pun done by Kubo, because Ichi represents 1 in Goro Owase and Go represents 5. Ichigo equals 15, and Ichigo was 15 years old at the start of the series, and his birthday is on the 15th. So when you look at that, you can see that they love to use this to make a little pun. So she was proposing the idea that Oda was using Goro Owase to make a pun game out of the crew's devil fruits, and she presented her evidence, and her evidence is pretty damning. Of course, Oda denied it, but basically she presented the evidence that 1 and 10 is Chopper because he's he in tow. Brooks' fruit, the Yomi Yomi no Mi, is 4-3. Luffy's is 5-6, and Robin's was 8-7. She then proposed the idea that maybe Oda was trying to say that Kuma would join because his fruit, Niku Niku no Mi, is 2-9 in Goro Owase. But what was omitted was the fact that Goro Owase is not so simple. Goro Owase actually goes from 0 to 10, and there are a lot more complex combinations that can be formed. So I made my own theory on this, but I noticed something right away when looking at the Goro Owase combinations, and that was that Robin didn't actually have to be 8-7 as was originally thought by the Japanese poster. Because if you use the more complex Goro Owase, Na, that syllable that creates the second half of Robin's fruit's name, could actually be 0 as well as 7. It could represent either one. So I believe that Robin is not 8-7, she's actually 8-0. So now let's look at the crew's actual designation according to that format. We have Robin at 0-8, Chopper at 1-10, Brook is 3-4, Luffy is 5-6. Then you have a situation where 2, 7, and 9 are actually available for use. Now, someone did mention in my theory when I did this on Or Jackson that Luffy doesn't actually have to be 5'6". He could be something else, but I do actually believe he is 5'6" because of a pun that Oda made right at the end of Dressrosa when we first got our Straw Hat Grand Fleet, which was that their total number of followers added up exactly to 5,600. And I think Oda was definitely making a pun there based on the Goro Owase combination for Luffy's devil fruit, which was Gomu Gomu, which is 5'6". And for him to have 5,600 followers, I think that is definite proof that Luffy is actually 5'6", and that there's no reason to change Luffy from that combination. So we basically got the Gomu fleet, which I think was kind of clever from Oda. I think something that is lost in translation that you can never get being an English reader. I believe that Luffy stays the same, Brooks stays the same, Chopper stays the same, Robin is 8-0, but 279 opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. For one thing, it makes it even more likely that Nami will get Monet's fruit from the Nami Monet theory that has been circling around the community for over a year now, mainly because Monet's fruit, the Yuki Yuki no Mi, is 7-9. So like I said, I moved Robin off of 7, and therefore the Yuki Yuki no Mi is 7-9. So with that added in, and let's say that theory is correct, we end up with 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All accounted for. The only thing missing is 2. And this brings me right back around to the devil fruit that I was talking about that would be perfect for a coding mechanic. Because then I have to ask myself, is Oda trying to avoid repetition? Is that the game he's playing? Or is Oda trying to use every single Goro Owase syllable from the entire list at least once to represent each number at least once with the devil fruits in the crew? Going with the second option means that Oda could actually overwrite and add a 6th devil fruit user into the crew. So that would leave us in a situation with 6 devil fruit users to the 5 non-devil fruit users, assuming a fisherman does join. And what I thought about using this 2 syllable in a fruit that would be perfect for coating, would be able to be used anytime, would be waterproof, and I really spent a lot of time researching what would be needed to create a coating-like substance. And I settled on this particular fruit, which amazingly fits perfectly, and that's the Mitsumitsu no Mi. Mi is from the 3 syllable, and Su, TSU, fits the 2nd syllable and uses up that Goro Owase option. And this fruit translates as the honey fruit or beeswax fruit. First of all, this is a unique fruit in the crew. We don't have a fruit that produces a substance but the user can't become it. Like this would be like a fruit similar to Mr. 3's candle wax fruit or to Magellan's poison fruit, a substance where you can create forms and shapes out of it but you can't become it. So it doesn't make it a Logia. And so I do believe this fruit would be a Paramecia. I do believe that this fruit would be like perfect because it fits all the requirements for a material that is similar to the resin, and also giving us that pattern where it creates the parallel between the devil fruit and the fighting style instantly, because he's a coder and he'd be using his honey substance to fight. It fits perfectly, and it took me a long time to find this. I don't know Japanese, so it took me a long time to research this, but I came up with that fruit. So what I'm thinking is that we're going to get a coder mechanic who uses honey to coat ships. So those are the 2 Nakama positions that I'm thinking of, the fighting styles that I'm thinking of. It matches with the current patterns of the crew. It gives us another fruit user who's not too overpowered, but it also gives us a fisherman. Oh, and even better, the Mitsumitsu no Mi might actually be the only devil fruit user who could swim. If he could waterproof and coat himself, he could dive into the ocean and stay in it for a short limited amount of time before it begins to affect him or degrade away at his devil fruit powers. So that's my last 2 Nakama theory. What I'll do is I'll split this into 2 parts and I'll deal with when they will actually join in a whole new theory that follows this one. So this will be part 1 and then we'll do with part 2.